Hi guys, welcome back to Data Every Day. Today we are looking at a data set of employees and trying to predict the burnout rate for a given employee based on a series of features. So train.csv is what we'll be using. We have some basic features about each employee, and then at the end we have the rate of saturation or burnout rate, which is basically, if you look at this, it takes a value between 0 and 1, where the higher the value, the more the burnout. So let's hop into the notebook. I'm going to be using NumPy and Pandas for working with the data. And then for pre-processing, we'll use the train test split function and standard scalar from sklearn. And we're going to use a whole bunch of different regression models today and compare the results. So let's go ahead and import all of that, and I'll load in the data using pandas.read.csv. We can grab the file path up here, which will be train.csv, and I'll paste it in, and we can take a look. So fairly simple data set, only 9 columns, but we do have a very good number of rows here, 22,750 rows. So let's get a little more information with data.info. And it looks like we do have some missing values in the last 3 columns. We also have 5 object columns, and that would be these first 5. So there's 3 categoricals, a date column, and an employee ID column, which we won't be worrying. We'll be dropping this column. So let's hop into the pre-processing section, and I'll create a function called pre-process inputs. This will take in a data frame. For now, all it will do is copy the data frame and return it, and we'll get back the processed version of the data in X. We'll pass in data, and this way we can edit a copy of the data frame and perform all of our pre-processing in this function. So the first thing I'm going to do is drop the employee ID column, because the values in here don't add anything to the prediction, the performance of the model. Every one of these is a unique identifier for an employee, so we don't need this. So let's drop it with df.drop. And we're dropping from axis 1, which is the column axis. Alright, so we took care of that. So there's some missing values. Let's take a look at the nature of those with x.isNA. That will give us a true or a false matrix, where true represents a missing value in that location. So we can sum over the rows to get the total number of trues or a total number of missing values in each column. And the first thing I notice about these missing values is that we have some missing values in our target column. And the second you see this, you don't want to treat these missing values like you would others. You want to drop these rows, because you don't want to be trying to predict imputed values. You don't want to be trying to predict fabricated information. So we're going to drop these burn rate missing values, and then whatever's remaining from these columns will then impute or fill in with the column means. So let's drop those missing values, missing value rows. So drop rows with missing target values. We can get this if we take X. Let's just take the target column, which is burn rate. If we get the isNA, we use isNA on this only on this series, we'll get a true/false for every example, and a true means there's a missing value there. So if we use this now as an indexer for X, so x.loc, and then use this true/false array as the row indexer and target all columns, we'll then get the data frame contain only the 1024 examples where we have missing values in the target column. We can then do .index to just get the indices of those examples, and we can store that in something maybe called missing target rows. So let's put this up in our function. I'll just change the x to df, and then we'll drop the missing target rows. And we're dropping from axis 0 this time. And anytime we drop from axis 0, we want to reset the index after, so that we don't have missing indices. And drop equals true will ensure the old indices don't become a new column. So we'll get that. If we look back at isNA now, we should have 0 missing target values. So good, and now we just have missing values in these 2 columns. Now if we look at these 2 columns, they're numeric columns. And to confirm this, you can see over here, these 2. It is a continuous feature, which is the amount of resources allocated to the employees from 1 to 10. So filling with the mean works well here. Here as well, this is the level of fatigue, also a continuous range between 0 and 10, so filling with the mean also works well. So let's fill remaining missing values with column means. So for each column in, and we're going to take a list of just these two, which are the ones with missing values. So for each of these columns, we're going to take the column and call fill NA on it, and the value we'd like to fill it with will be df subcolumn.mean. So this function allows us to fill missing values with whatever we pass in here. So we're just filling with the mean, and then we're going to set that equal to the original column. Now, if we look at the NAs, we have 0 across the board. So we're fully done with missing values, and now we can work on encoding. So I think maybe before we do encoding, we should actually deal with the date column, because we know how the date column should be encoded right off the bat. We're just it's not actually categorical, it's numeric, but there's 3 numeric features combined into one. So let's use datetime objects to extract the year, month, and day from this. Create 3 new separate columns. Maybe we'll call them join year, join month, join day, and then we'll remove the original column after we've done that. So extract date features. So the way we'll do this, Pandas has a nice function called toDateTime, which takes in a string and it converts it to a datetime object. What's nice about a datetime object is you can then type .year to get the year, .month to get the month, and .day to get the day, and they come as integers. So it already pretty much encodes it for us. Now we can use toDateTime on a whole column if we just grab date of joining and then say x sub date of joining. And that will convert the whole column into datetime column. We can then apply a function to this column that for every x in the column, we get x.year. And that will just return the years for everything in the column. So this is how we're going to extract the features. So let's use that up here. I'll just change x to df. And what I'll first do is take this and say, so I'm just going to set the column equal to a datetime version of itself. So we're casting it to datetime here. And then we're going to apply this function to the column and save the result in a new column, which we'll call join year. Like that. And now we'll copy this over for month and day. Just edit this. This will be join month. And at the end here we'll put month. And this will be join day. And at the end we'll put day. And then when we're done, we can drop the original date of joining column from axis 1. Alright, and you can see we now have year, month, and day on the end, and the original day column is gone. So we've pretty much dealt with that. The last thing we have to do is worry about these 3, which are categoricals. Now, when you're dealing with categoricals, the first thing you should figure out is how many unique values are in each one. So let's create a dictionary that's going to map a column name to the number of unique values in the column. So what I'll do is I'll take x subcolumn, use the .unique function to get the unique values, and then take the length of that to get the number of unique values. And we'll do that for every column in x.columns. Alright, and I care about the first 3 here. And you'll notice there's 2 values in each one. So that makes our life really easy. That means that each of these should be binary encoded. And binary encoding is very simple. You just send one of the values to 0, the other value to 1, and you're done. So let's do that for these 3. So binary encoding. Alright, so for gender, let's take the gender column and use the replace function on it. Replace allows us to specify a dictionary of mappings to use. So in the gender column, we have female and male. So why don't we send female to 0 and male to 1. And the order of this doesn't matter. You can have female as 1, male as 0. It doesn't matter. This is just a convention. So then we'll send this to the original column, and that will perform the replacement. And that will be the full binary encoding. So now we'll do the same thing for company type and for work from home setup available. So let's just fill this in for company type. And the values here for company type are service and product. So why don't we set product to 0 and service to 1. And again, this order does not matter. Then last, work from home setup available. So fill these in with the column name. And then the values here instead are going to be no and yes. So we'll make no 0 and yes 1. Alright. And that should do it. So check this now. We have 1s and 0s in these columns, and everything has been properly encoded. Everything is in numeric form, and we have no missing values. So we're ready to split and scale the data. So let's split df into x and y. So y is going to be what we're trying to predict. That's going to be the burn rate column. So let's set y equal to df sub burn rate. And x is all the rest of the data. So that's our feature data. We'll drop burn rate from axis 1. Set that to x. Then we'll do our train test split. So this is going to be x train, x test, y train, and y test. And we get this from the train test split function from sklearn, which makes our lives really easy. We just pass in x and y, specify a train size of 70% works, keep shuffle equals true. So that will shuffle the data before we make the split, and then include a random state so that the shuffle and therefore the split is always done in the same way if we want to reproduce the results of the notebook. Okay, so let's return these 4 sets of data instead. Get them back over here, and we'll take a look at xtrain. So xtrain no longer has the burn rate column, and we only are working with 70% of the data. Ytrain should be just the burn rate column. So there we go. Alright, so now let's scale the data. So currently the columns all take different ranges of values, and the many models their performance is greatly enhanced when you scale the data, which means set all the columns to have the same range of values. And there's multiple ways to do that. We'll be using a standard scaler, which gives each column a mean of 0 and a variance of 1. So we'll shift and scale each column so that the column distribution has mean 0 and variance 1, and we're going to fit it only to the train set. So it's going to figure out how to shift and scale based on looking at the train set, and then we're going to transform both the train and test set using that fit. So xtrain becomes scalar.transform of xtrain. So I'll point out that if we run this now, xtrain is a numpy array, so it has been scaled, but we can't see it as a nice data frame anymore. So let's go back in and turn it into a data frame. And we'll keep the indices the same as they were, and the columns the same as they were. Then we'll copy this over and do exactly the same thing for xtest. Alright, we have a problem. Index data must be one-dimensional. I forgot to put .index on these. Okay. Alright, there we go. Here's xtrain. And the first thing, okay, so this is a bit of a red flag. When I see zeros after scaling, this could be, in the case of a numeric column like this usually means that there's only one value in join year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo all these ones and just return df again. And I'm going to get it back here. I'll call it df. We'll just get that from preprocessed inputs, and maybe we'll call it x. And we look at x, and then I look at join. You know what we'll do is use that thing we used before. No, it's still floating around. Here it is. Oh yeah, and sure enough, there it is. Only one value in join year. So a single value column is also useless to us because there's no way to draw differences between the values in the column. So everything in here is 2008, so we might as well drop that column. So we can actually do this just by not taking the join year. Just delete that line and only take the month and day. Alright, let's bring these all back. Delete this, and run this. Alright, so join year is gone. Our data has been scaled, and I think we're ready to train. Yeah. So let's start training. So we're going to use a whole bunch of models like I imported. So I'm just going to copy in a dictionary that will make our lives easier so I don't have to type it out. this maps the name of the model to the instance of the model which we're going to fit. And so our models today, we have linear regression, actually 3 types of linear regression with different types of regularization. This is ridge regression with L2 regularization, and this is lasso regression with L1 regularization. Then we have k-nearest neighbors algorithm, a neural network, 2 support vector machines, one with a linear kernel, one with a nonlinear kernel, our decision tree, and then our ensemble methods, which are the random forest regressor, gradient boosting regressor, XGBoost, LightGBM, and CatBoost. So let's fit them all with one for loop. I'm going to get the name and the model for each pair of key values in models, which we can get with models.items. So items will return them as tuples, so we can get them 2 at a time like this. And then we're going to train each model, so model.fit on the train set. And we're going to print out a little confirmation message, puts the model name and then trained. Alright, and we can see as they train. After that, we'll get the results. And for this, I'm again going to iterate through for name and model in models.items. We're going to print out the name of the model followed by the R² score. And we'll display the R² score to 5 decimal places and format by passing in model.score, which will give us the R² score in the case of a regression model, evaluated on the test set. Alright, so here it is. So R² score is basically a measure of how better your model is compared to the baseline model. So the baseline model is the model you would use when you only have access to the y's, when you have no feature data. If you just had the targets, these values, what would you predict? Well, the baseline model, the best thing you could do in this case would be to predict the mean. So what we do is we predict the mean for every example, calculate the error between all predictions, and then do the same thing for our model. We look at the distribution of errors for the baseline model, and we look at the distribution of errors for our model, and the percent reduction between the variance in the errors of the baseline model compared to the variance of errors in our model is the R² score. So the best score you can get is 1.0. That means 100% reduction in variance from the baseline model to ours. And the worst thing you can get is negative infinity, which means you can just have infinitely more variance than the baseline model, which would be a negative reduction or an increase. Alright, and if we look at our models, you can see our worst performing model is the linear regression with L1 regularization. That one is actually slightly worse than predicting the mean, but everything else is doing pretty well. Decision tree is a bit weak compared to the others, but most of them are lying in the 85 to 90 range. And our best models definitely seem to be the ensemble methods here. I think the number 1 model here is LightGBM with a 0.909. But yeah, so that will sum up today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell for more content, and leave any comments you have in the section below. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a fantastic day.